co-host of Pictures at an Exhibition. Today we are at the Jewish Community in Amherst, that is on Main Street here in downtown Amherst. We are talking today with the printmaker and artist, 3D artist actually, Anne Burton. We are going to see mostly 2D work from her, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. I would like to have a conversation with her right now. Welcome, Anne Burton.
Thank you.
So Anne, here we are in the beginning of the hallway with the very first image. And immediately I am arrested and trying to see more in this very complex image. Tell us more about this.
Well, I not only make monoprints, but I think that the glass is part of the work. And I came to that conclusion because we don't see what's really around us very clearly, the most obvious things.
Can I just add to the viewer, this is an image that has two layers to them. One is a print on paper, and the other one is a sandblasted piece of glass over it. And that is part of the image and part of the work. And you have some things slightly obscured by the sandblasted glass, and some of this you can glimpse through. And I'm sorry I interrupted you. So you have just started to say you can't really observe everything. Is that correct?
And I loved your word obscured, because I think that we do see the world in an obscure way. The title of this is The 36 Are Out There. And there is a tradition in Judaism that there must be 36 righteous souls in the world, or the world would fall apart. And so these 36 righteous souls don't know that they are the 36, and we don't know it. But you could be one, for all I know. And the idea that we're connected with people who are holding the world together and not know it, that's why it's obscure.
It's wonderful. And I think hopefully we all think that we might not actually make the cut with the 36. So let's be the other one. Let's be the last one who makes the cut. Otherwise the world will fall apart. I think that is such a wonderful, timely notion that keeps us on our toes to be righteous.
Yes, and responsible. Because everything we do connects with everybody else.
I think that is an overriding theme in your work, the connections with each other, with the world, and with everything that we are encountering. And that brings me to a next image. Can we go there?
I'll follow you.
So this is the logical next image in this gallery, but not the only one. So here we have a work that is called Revealed Karmic Connections. This doesn't have a second layer on it, but you see these round images, globe-like images that are all connected. So Anne, tell me about this connection, the shape, the round shape, the orbs, so to speak, that you are playing on.
Well, I started thinking about the fact that we're all connected by a single thread. And I thought, well, a circle is a rather perfect form. It has no beginning and no end.
Yes.
But it's very complicated in the middle, as we all are. No beginning, no end. So the circles for me are sometimes people, human beings, and sometimes they're nations or cosmically planets. But what happens on one affects the other. There's nothing that you can do, whether you're conscious of your responsibility of the effect or not conscious, you're still affecting another life, we'll say.
You're affecting each other, so
yes.
you're not You're not in an individual, you're not an individual completely. You are connected, and you're connected not only to the universe, but you're also on a subatomic way. So there's this connection that we find ourselves in the middle from the smallest to the largest.
Yes, you really understand. Thank you for helping me with that. It indeed, it places a great burden on us to know how connected we are, but it's also a very joyful thing, and we do affect each other's karma as well as our own.
Now let's go into more scientific conversation. So Anne, this is connected with string theory. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, I'm not a physicist, but I was having a conversation with a physicist who was trying to explain string theory to me, having seen my other work that dealt with being connected by thread. And he said something that really struck a chord with me, if you will, that string theory is simply a way that physicists are trying to express what things are made of. It's an expression. And so I thought, well, if you can express what I'm made of with string theory, and you can express what the wall is made of with string theory, then we're all made of the same stuff. So I began to think about my connections, and in this case, I'm not using circles, I'm using rectangles to separate the connections, but this connection by a single thread, and we're all made of the same stuff. In this one, which I call the three of us connected, or consanguinity, which means we're connected by blood, and you can see the vessels that move from one to the other. So the eye really makes the connection rather than the string making the connection. I hope that what the images do is give people an opportunity to bring their own experiences, so that the images really come out of thoughts and feelings that about time and space and connection that I don't understand until I make an image. And then I'm hoping that the image prompts other people to begin thinking that way.
Now we are looking at a piece, it's called Life's Threshold. And we have here a very three-dimensional piece that has a frame, glass, it's sandblasted, then the actual two-dimensional work that is very three-dimensional in some ways. And I think that's where the sculptor, Anne Burton, the sculptor, comes through. You could not resist making this as three-dimensional as you could on a two-dimensional plane. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And life's threshold, we don't know what's beyond it. It changes. And one of the things I meant to do with the sandblasting is cast shadows on the image that I made, because shadows are illusory, as is whatever we think comes after the threshold of death.
It also reminds me a little bit of Plato's myth of the cave, where as humans we don't really know what's coming beyond. We have this illusion of life as the shadow, but we have never really glimpsed what the actual, I don't want to call it reality is, but we have never been able to look beyond. And this piece reminds me on it. But it also reminds me on, all of the work that you are producing, the works that you're producing, you have always this same theme about eternity, about connectivity, about questions of being. And where do you have this from? What informs you to work in this kind of a theme, to question this all the time?
Well, it may have something to do with having lived a lot of years, but it also has a lot to do with my having spent the last 6 years as a volunteer at the Fisher Hospice. I did not know that I would be thinking about death, not my own, but thinking about death makes you think about life. And I had been thinking about life and dwelling on that. So I thought, well, death seems to be a threshold out of this world. The threshold into the world is birth. We all share those two thresholds. But the journey in between is different for each of us. And so there are thresholds that we cross in the course of life. But the birth and death threshold, this one I meant to kind of incorporate our whole sense of where space begins is very much attached to our own physical selves. Our sense of dimension is attached to the fact that we're three-dimensional. What if there are more dimensions? What if after life we find out that there are more? So I wanted some of this to be illusory and have a sense that we don't really have a sense of the space we're in. We only have a sense of our physical space. I don't have any answers because each person I've been with as they were dying died quite differently, just as we all live differently. So the 6 years at Fisher haven't given me answers, they've given me questions. And the questions are not things to be uncomfortable with. You get more and more comfortable with the idea that we enter the world and we leave the world. And again, spirit into matter and matter into spirit.
Yes. That brings us to the next image, or the next set of images. So we are looking at more images of the Threshold series here. And this is an image that Anne printed twice. Once on white paper and once on dark paper. And we see this right here in these two images. We are focusing right now a little bit more on the white version because I think it's just easier to see. So what are we looking at, Anne?
I think I spent a lot of time thinking about the threshold of death. And that made me think I should be also thinking of the threshold of birth. This is how we come into the world and leave the world. So it was not conscious, but the image turned out to seem like the birth canal, coming into the world, leading our lives, and then going out. So you can see little figures in here, and they defy gravity. They are not always upright. But again, we don't know how we behave in space. And the reason I did a negative as well as a positive is that again is the flipped side. It's birth and death and the journey in between. So I hope that comes through. If it doesn't, then it's still an interesting image. I see the spirit world better now that I am dealing with people who are about to enter it.
I could not agree more with you, Anne. And I want to thank you for this conversation. I also want to thank you, the viewers, to stay with us in this rather busy hallway of the Jewish Community of Amherst. There's lots of things going on here, and we love that. We are also, I would like to know how long the show is going. How long is it going?
The show will be up until almost the end of April. So it's here for 3 months, and that's a great privilege too, because many people who would not go to an art gallery come through this hallway. The Literacy Project comes through the hallway. People who are on their way to worship come through the hallway. So I feel, again, privileged in that my work is being seen by people who might never step into a museum or a gallery.
So please come. You have time. Come, read the text, read the titles, look deeply into these images, and then connect with the eternity. Bye-bye.